Namaste. Welcome to Yoga Today. And we're continuing looking at this beautiful book called The Love Principles by Arlene Lawrence. And she talks about these love principles. There are 6 of them. And today we're going to look at the 3rd one on her list. Though she would say you want to be working on them all together because they are interdependent. And so this is the 3rd one. Receive all people as beautiful, just the way they are. And she said, of all 6 of them, this is the one people find the most challenging, the most difficult to do. She says, it's not an easy task for anyone who has opinions, judgments, or even just feelings about how other people should be. And that's pretty much all of us. And really, we could spend a long time just looking at that one sentence. So receiving people is beautiful, just as they are. Not looking at them wondering how could they be better and what we don't like about them and our judgments and opinions, but just to see the person standing before you, be present and receive them. Just receive them. And we'll talk more about that later. But she says it would be bad enough if we were just having judgments and opinions about whether we wanted to receive them or not. But she says on top of that, generally speaking, we've already decided what's wrong with them and what they need to do to fix it. And the hard part about it is if we're honest, we all do this to a greater or to a lesser extent. Unless you're enlightened, this is how the human condition is. We look at others through the lens of our own mind and its limitations, and we put those limitations on them. So we don't have a clear view of the person, not at all. And, we have this idea, we think we're going to make them better. We're going to improve the quality of their life. We're going to offer them advice, tell them what they should and shouldn't do to have a more comfortable, wonderful life. But if we're honest about it, she says that's not really our motivation. We don't really want to help them to improve their lives. What we want is we want them to be the way we want them to be. And that usually means be like us. In fact, it's a psychological disorder. It's called BLM disease. And it means be like me, which is if you were doing things right, if you were choosing the right way to live, you would do it like me, because obviously I'm doing okay. And so if you're doing it differently to me, you're probably just not doing it right. And this is endemic in the population, so hardly anyone escapes this particular disease. We all think we're right. We all think we know what's the best way to do it. And if you think about it, if we carry on in that vein, if we keep trying to make people behave the way we do, the way we think they should, the right way according to our judgments and opinions, we're making everyone the same. And we're making everyone like us. And I can remember when I first learnt this idea that when you use the word should, you should do this. Should is somebody else's value system. You could say to them, I found this helpful. That's just talking about you. But if you tell them they should, you're basically saying, I've bought this particular way of behaving and made it my own. When usually we've not really done that at all. This was something somebody taught us that we're passing on as if it were true, when time and time again it's proved to us in our own lives that it doesn't work, and yet we're offering it to other people as a way of life, a way to live. And if we would continue and we're successful making people like us, then we are getting rid of diversity. And I can remember being little and, people who do things differently, when you're a kid, you're so sure that the way you do things in your own home, where your mum and dad are the boss, and they're the ones who are setting the tone for everything that happens in your house. And you think that they're right, we're doing it right. And so when other people do things differently, it's a little scary and intimidating because we want to explain to them they're not doing it right. We want to save them from the trauma of doing it wrong, but we also don't want to be rude because you're not supposed to do that either. So we're in a bit of a quandary here. And we're going to try and make everybody else be like us and get rid of this incredible diversity. So as I say, to start off with, I found it intimidating when people weren't like me. So I found it a little scary, and very often I avoided those people because they didn't do things right. They didn't do them like me. But then as I got a bit older, I began to realize these people who didn't do things the way I did them had different ways of doing things. And sometimes, hard to believe but true, the things that they did worked better than the things I did. And all of a sudden, that diversity wasn't something to be avoided, it was something to be embraced. And so no longer feeling like, oh, not so sure about these people, they're not doing things right. I began to think of, oh, these are people who have something different to offer, not just a clone of me. And so it's a wonderful thing to ask yourself, what are you missing as you're trying to make people be like you? Why are they the way they are? What drew you to those differences in the first place? Why did you befriend this person? Why did you want to relate to them? So we would miss out on what there is to learn, how we can stretch and grow if we don't really appreciate other people. And as a result of accepting this challenge. And so this beautiful woman, Arlene Lawrence, who wrote this book, tells us a little bit about her parents and the challenges they faced, and something that's very common. And it's all to do with not being able to receive someone as beautiful, just the way they are. So both of her parents had retired and they were in their 80s. And they'd got to the point where the husband, her dad, he was pretty laid back, kind of relaxed man. And he enjoyed being retired, and he liked to sit around, maybe by the swimming pool. He liked to smoke cigars. He liked to rest. He was happy. He enjoyed that. But her mother, no, she was a whirlwind. She was active. She always wanted to be doing things. And instead of receiving him as beautiful the way he was, this isn't what she wanted. She wanted somebody to share her vision, live the life she wanted to live. And so she started nagging at him and being quite unpleasant. And, her husband just wasn't matching up to her expectations. She wasn't happy, starting to try to change him. And so her daughter, with her wisdom, suggested Mom, why don't you try changing yourself here? Do something different. Enjoy your life. Do you not feel restricted? Are there things you want to do? Ways to express your soul more freely, express life force through you? Obviously you want to be more active than Dad does. So don't try to make him more active. You just be more active. Look for things that will be fulfilling for you. So even though she encouraged her, no, her mum wanted her dad to fulfill that need she had, to become the image that she had in her head of what their relationship would look like. She did not receive him as beautiful as he was. She insisted that he change. What changed was their relationship. What changed was her husband. He became more stressed. Their relationship deteriorated, and so did his health. And he ended up having long stays in hospital. He wasn't happy, and neither was she. But she did change too. What happened to her was that this person that she was nagging at, that wasn't what she wanted, now all of a sudden she was really, really concerned about him. So she spent a lot of time and effort in going to see him. And when he eventually passed away, she missed him terribly, even though he wasn't what she wanted, even though the relationship wasn't what she wanted. And maybe partly because of it, she was overwhelmed with grief. What a waste of those precious later years of their marriage. It could have been very, very different. And she says the main reason we don't receive others as beautiful as they are is that like in this case, her mum saw lack in her dad. He wasn't motivated enough. He wasn't doing enough. The lack we see in them often represents a missed or important opportunity for our own growth. Because if you're looking at somebody else and their behavior is bothering you, you're like, why don't they just get on and do more? The person who's desperately wanting to get on and do more is you. And the other way around, she could have learnt from him. She could have learnt some of his ways of relaxing, of being contented with his life, instead of always feeling like she had to rush. So she could maybe have found a more creative way to use the energy that she had, instead of being angry with him and berating him for doing nothing. She could have recognized, I'm the one with all this energy. I've not got enough on. I'm not doing enough activities. I'm not allowing my soul to express the way it wants to in these circumstances. So, how are we going to do this? I mean, as she said, some people are like, I don't know if I want to do it. But let's say you do. Say you want a different relationship with the people in your life, a different way of dealing with challenging people in your world and in your home. How are we going to do it? And she said, this is not a function of the mind. This is a function of the open heart. This is a different life. And I think that it's really interesting that she talks about this idea of receiving all people. And even when I first read this book, and before I read this part of it, I thought, oh, it's about accepting people just the way they are. But she says, no, it's more than that. It's different. The first word is receive, not accept. And she says acceptance has a mental judgment in it. You know, who is acceptable to you? You're making the line. You're making the judgment about who you're going to accept into your life. It's a lot different in terms of receiving. Receive is welcome in, be open to, be present to. It's a pure, heart-centered energy. And it's neither familiar nor easy for most people. Their go-to, their habit is to go to the mind, where the mind will judge and absolve you of any responsibility of opening your heart. Who needs an open heart when you've already decided this person's not worth it? This person doesn't live up to your expectations, and they're not acceptable to you. And I thought we'd just take a minute or two and just think about the people who might fall in this category. And let's pick two people, maybe one who is someone dear to you, and then somebody out in the world. Maybe you don't know them, but you're judging them anyway. So let's take a minute. Who have you decided is not worth reaching out to, not worth opening your heart for? Try. Victory to your soul, victory to your heart center, the seat of love and compassion. So she's encouraging to receive all people, everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, no matter how they express themselves, how they look, what they believe. Recognize all as having equal value within the whole. You know, from the time you went to school, people have been judging you and putting you in the line before somebody, after somebody else. The heart has no line for you to get into, where there'll be somebody better than you and somebody worse than you. It's not what it's about. Not what it's about. Recognize all as having equal value. It's not what we do when we love some people more than others. And I know that's something that's extremely challenging to people's point of view. We think we're supposed to love some people more than others. Surely you've got to love your children better than other children. You've got to love your parents better than other people's parents. You've got to love your partner better than somebody else's, or your children, whoever it is, brothers, sisters, friends. And yet here she's saying, we're not doing that when we love some people more than others. And she says, to the extent that you withhold from one person, you withhold from all. Why is that? And she explains it so beautifully that I'm just going to read it. She says, we cut ourselves off. We cut ourselves off when we withhold. You have this enormous amount of love in you. So what are we doing? We're letting, we're letting as much as we can through for some people and none for others. We're controlling the tap that allows love to flow from us. And she says, and I think this is worth spending time in your life working on. We cannot be infused with limitless love and offer it to others conditionally. We want to be loved by God, by the divine, unconditionally, just as we are, completely loved. And then we're going to choose how much of that love we're going to pass on to other people. That's not love. Why close that floodgate? Why not have an open heart? So when we love from the heart center, not from our mind, we love that person without any reason at all. I love you because one of my daughters has been ill and her sister was over visiting, and my daughter's ankles were swollen and her legs were painful. And so we put her feet up. But it was her sister who went and brought a wet, cold towel to wrap round her warm, swollen feet. And then she went back and got 2 little bags of ice and rested them under her heels. Would never have thought of that. But my daughter, when she did it, said, "Oh my goodness, that feels so much better." I loved my daughter for her kindness. I loved her for the way she treated her sister, the compassion and the love that poured out of her, which is lovely. But why withhold that from someone else? Why just love her because she's kind? Love her because she is. Love her because she's there. So Arlene says, love that person without any particular reason. This person before you is there to be loved. And it's our commitment to love them. As a devotee on the path, where does it say in any of the great traditions, the religions, the mysticism, where does it say, give only a little of what you have? You won't get any more. Why would the universe be gifting you more love when you're just parceling it out in little teeny tiny pieces? It gives us a completely different view of what it means to love. When we sit to meditate, we are attuning with this limitless, unconditional love. The more you experience it, the more you express it, the more truly happy you will be, the more truly living from your own soul. So let's just take these last couple of minutes and just close your eyes, take a deep breath, take two. And focusing in the heart center, either at the front of the chest or deep inside your spine and back of your heart. And as best you can, sense that unconditional love is pouring out from your heart. And just let it go out as far as it can. Feel that you're the conduit through which love flows. You may think of it as spirit or the love of the Lord of your heart. It's not coming from you. It's coming through you. joy, victory to your heart. And now just feel as if you're gathering this love back home into your heart. Knowing that it's there, ready to flow freely at any time. And just bring your awareness back to your physical body, coming down through the booty, your intuition, your life force, your breath, your heartbeat, and into your physical being. And just tensing and relaxing your arms and legs. Take a deep breath. And then just gently dropping your chin to your chest. And either just moving your head from side to side, or if you have no neck problems, doing a full circle, maybe a couple in one direction, and a couple in the opposite direction. And when you're ready, gently opening your eyes. I understand that this is hard for the mind to conceive, but your heart center knows how to do this. May people who cross your path know that they are loved. Namaste.